Good morning, I'm Melissa Harris Perry. March Madness is in full swing right now. The national obsession with rankings, matchups, and the guessing game over whether the top seed will go all the way or be toppled by a surprise Cinderella. And I am not talking about the NCAA basketball tournament. I am talking about the other big dance, the one that only comes around every 4 years. The race to be president of the United States. Just like that other big tournament, the race for 2016 has already seen lots of fanfare, rousing pep rallies, fiery speeches, and plenty of trash talking. But unlike that other tournament, we can't fill out our 2016 brackets yet because we lack one crucial piece of information: the actual players. After all, the ink and the airtime that has been spent on the 2016 presidential race, we have the same number of official candidates that we started the year with: 0. Now, compare that to the last presidential campaign without an incumbent. By this point in 2007, at least 7 Democrats and 4 Republicans had already launched their campaigns. And one of those candidates, then Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack, had already announced and dropped out of the race. So far, we have seen many of the likely 2016 contenders create super PACs, hire staff, and spend a lot of time with the suddenly and once again very popular folks in the critical states of Iowa and New Hampshire. We have heard them talk about why they love America and why they don't love our current president. But we have not heard anyone officially say they want to be the next president. Of course, they've been asked. And even though they are making what looks like campaign trips to what looks a lot like campaign rallies and forums, and many of them have actually put on payroll a lot of what looks like a campaign staff, let's listen to what they actually say, though.
Why do you want to be president of the United States?
Well, I haven't made that decision yet, Sean, but a good try to get me to announce it on you.
I did run in track. I was good at the half mile and the quarter mile. And I've been running 3 times in the last 4 years, so I'm getting pretty used to it.
Oh, so coy. But despite his coy answer, Scott Walker did acknowledge last week that, hey, maybe he is the front runner for the GOP nomination, to which likely opponent Jeb Bush had this.
I'm not a candidate. I don't think maybe he is, I don't know, but I'm not. You can't be a front runner until you start running.
So said former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who just happened to be in New Hampshire. Well played, sir. See what he did there? He managed to avoid making an official announcement while still putting down one of his toughest competitors. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul seems to be a candidate in every way but officially, especially now that he's picked a political director for his operation in New Hampshire. For a moment last weekend, it seemed that Paul had become the first to make a public declaration after tweeting, "I'm the only candidate who thinks the NSA program on phone records should be shut down." Then Paul tweeted his clarification. Re-candidacy comments, "I am a candidate for the U.S. Senate." But the queen of the artful dodge may be former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She's not officially a candidate for the White House, but she is using the White House as a source for her new communications team. Jennifer Palmieri, the White House Communications Director, is leaving to join the Clinton team, which prompted this pointed comment from the White House spokesman Friday.
I think it's possible that while today is her last day in this White House, it may not be the last time that she serves at the White House, so we'll see.
Wow. And yet, despite major hints like that, Clinton is still hedging on whether or not she's actually going to run. Here's what she had to say while speaking to the powerful Political Action Committee, Emily's List, earlier this month.
And I suppose it's only fair to say, don't you someday want to see a woman president of the United States of America?
Hillary Clinton's verbal gymnastics around the question of whether she's running are so common, the non-candidate meme is now material for Saturday Night Live.
There will be no mistakes in my rise to the top if I decide to run. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I might not. As you can see, I'm just relaxing at home.
This trend, let's call it #running not running, of the 2016 cycle is neither accidental nor coincidental. There's good reason to hold out, and largely what it comes down to is cold, hard cash. Here to help us understand, Kai Wright, features editor of The Nation, Sabrina Siddiqui, who is a political reporter for The Guardian, Alfonso Aguilar, who is executive director of the American Principles Project's Latino Partnership, and Shane Goldmacher, who is senior political correspondent for the National Journal and author of the article, When It Pays to Pretend You're Not Running for President. So I'm going to start with you, Shane. Why is it a good idea to play hard to get, to not actually officially announce?
I mean, you've answered this question, and it's just money. For all of these people, there's an advantage to waiting, and the advantage is they can raise more money from more people now, and then when they actually get into the race, they can tap them for the smaller contribution limits that you're limited to once you're actually a candidate. And when you're folks that are out of office entirely, like Jeb Bush, you can actually coordinate with the super PAC that's raising money. You can raise money in $100,000 increments. Once you're actually a candidate, $2,700 is your cap.
You have a great line in the piece that says something like, the best way to run for president is to be unemployed and not actually running.
Yeah, this is his great advantage. And it's one of the first people who are expected to announce are actually the sitting U.S. senators. Rand Paul sort of has an announcement scheduled for April 7th. And the reason is because he's in office. He doesn't get these advantages. Once you're a federal official, you don't get to get around the rules. So it's the people out of office who can especially take advantage of these sort of loopholes.
Right, he's a candidate for the U.S. Senate. Alfonso, I also wonder if there is something in particular about the Republican field, about the way that Republicans make choices in their primaries, which is a somewhat different, literally, process than the way that Democrats do. I guess I am stunned in what is going to be an open seat race that so few people, particularly on the Republican side, where it is wide open, haven't thrown their hat in the ring.
Well, some are going to announce soon,
sure.
but I have to say it's happening on both sides because, as you said at the beginning, we don't have any candidates on the Democratic side, on the Republican side.
But let me just real quick, because when I look at the Democratic side, I presume that is because there's an elephant in the room, there's a Bigfoot in the race, there is, even though she has not declared, Hillary Clinton's presence kind of, but on the Republican side, it is just far more open.
Well, I mean, I think certainly money is part of it. They're waiting so they can raise money for the super PACs that eventually will support their campaigns through independent expenditures. But I don't think it's only money. I think this is the new reality of 21st century politics with the 24-hour news cycle and the infinity of media outlets. Before, you had to announce in January, February, because you had to get yourself known by the American public. Now you can wait. You don't want to get burned. And you can get known in a short period of time because you have so many media outlets, social media, to connect with voters. So I think that's part of it.
So that's interesting. You actually framed that a little differently than I thought, to say, okay, because there's this proliferation of media, then like the capacity to introduce yourself rises. But Sabrina, I guess part of what I had been thinking is it in fact because once you announce, you are open to a certain level of scrutiny that you would not otherwise be open to?
Absolutely. I do think that this 24/7 media environment that we live in does expose candidates to a higher level of scrutiny. One could argue, of course, that they're already being scrutinized. Sure. Every move that they make. If you look at all the staffers who have had to resign, Liz Mayer, high-profile GOP operative who was hired by Scott Walker, made some comments about Iowa. 48 hours later, over those tweets, she was forced to hand in her resignation. This has happened to Rick Perry as well, hiring someone who had made questionable comments about women. That's the kind of scrutiny that these candidates are already facing. But you're right. People start the feeding frenzy when you officially throw your hat in the race. That's when the oppo, of course, also comes out, and it's really hard for these candidates to then stay on message while also having to, take care of and handle these distractions that are, of course, unflattering for their candidacy.
But guys, it is leading to some wonderful moments. I want to take a listen to Jeb Bush at CPAC. Just the way that he talks about himself running, not running, is so funny. Let's listen.
If I go beyond the consideration of the possibility of running, which is the legal terminology that many of the people here coming to CPAC are probably using to not trigger a campaign, if I get beyond that and I run for president, I have to show what's in my heart.
What? I didn't even, at the end, I was like, wait a minute, your heart, whoa, I don't even know how we got there.
Yeah. It's an absurdity, and I think it's this kind of absurdity that does connect substantively to voter disengagement. I think when I've done a lot of reporting on poverty in particular, for instance, and people always talk about, well, you look at poor folks and how much they do or do not vote and what do they feel about the system. And across the spectrum, across the political spectrum, you hear consistently people will say, well, what are those? The politicians don't have anything to do with me. They have nothing to do with my lives because they plainly represent the powerful and the rich. And I think this sort of unvarnished playing of games with campaign finance is the sort of thing that turns people off and says, well, this doesn't have anything to do with me. So,
but let me disagree with that, because the involvement of the super PACs, at least on the Republican side, in places like Iowa and New Hampshire, it's actually promoting voter engagement. They're organizing events where candidates are, or potential candidates, or whatever they are connecting directly with people and talking about issues. The super PACs work with grassroots organizations, and regular people are getting very involved in the process.
So both of these things could be true at the same time, in the sense that the work of the super PACs in early primary organizing like this could absolutely activate those primary voters who we know are a non-random draw from the box, right? And yet the kind of notions of us sitting around a table at this point and saying, are you running, are you not running, can make ordinary people trying to balance their checkbooks and make sense out of life feel like, what is Washington doing?